Michelle, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Town Clerk. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting on this day, the 2nd of June. I must apologise that we're running this meeting slightly late this evening. Welcome to members of the public, welcome to councillors, officers. The first item on the agenda this evening is apologies for absence. Do I have any apologies?
Yeah, there was Councillor Eggleton and Councillor Isaac is substituting.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Do any councillors have any declarations of interest to any item on the agenda this evening? Councillor Arlott.
Yeah, on page 2, the first one on the plans new, that's the neighbour over the back from me, so I won't speak on that one. And on page 4, 9 Gravel Hill, as I'm a trustee of the Henley Housing Trust, so I'll listen to the debate on that one.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 3, the minutes of the last meeting. Do I have a proposer for acceptance? Yes, Councillor Romans, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Gavashak, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Okay, so all those in favour? Thank you. Okay, so we come to the next item on the agenda, which is number 4, which is the public participation part of the meeting. I understand that all of the members of the public who want to speak this evening have already been briefed by the Town Clerk. You do have 2 to 3 minutes to speak, each of you. What I would ask, if any of you are actually speaking about the same application, in the interest of time, I would be grateful if you wouldn't make the same points as the person before you. I know it is difficult, but just try. You know, we won't call you out, but if you could, we'd be very grateful. Okay, so first I can see on my screen is Greg Walters. Would you mind switching on your mic and informing us of which item you're speaking about? And you have 2 to 3 minutes whenever you're ready. This is Greg Walters. Sheridan, how can we get the attention of Mr. Greg Walters?
You can always move on to the next the next person and come back at the end.
Okay. Okay, so the next person that I can see on my screen is Louise Morton. Whenever you're ready.
Penny. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, you can hear me. Am I clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
James.
Hello, yes.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Oh, is that Louise Morton?
It's Louise Morton from Quadrant Town Planning, speaking in respect of 253 Grays Road.
Quadrant Town Planning, okay, 253, okay. Yep, you've got 2 to 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
We're representing the neighbours at 251 Grays Road. The proposed development of 3 dwellings in place of the existing dwelling represents a gross overdevelopment of this plot. The 3 houses are located very close together and will erode the spacious character of this part of Grays Road. While planning consent's been granted to new dwellings on other plots on Grays Road, the site specifics of this scheme mean that there's virtually no separation between the proposed dwellings and the existing properties on either side at 251 and 255 Grays Road. The scheme will remove virtually all landscaping from the frontage. 5 evergreen trees will be removed, replacing them with hard standing for the parking of 9 cars. This will erode the green character of Grays Road. The proposed houses are only 2 metres apart, and because the units are very deep, they will appear as one continuous built form. Plot 1 is only 2.5 metres from the neighbouring property at 251 Grays Road and will have an unacceptable impact on this property. It will extend more than 7 metres to the rear of 251, creating an overbearing relationship. Some 4.5 metres of the rear projection beyond 251 is 2-storey. The proposed extension breaches the 45-degree rule in elevation and will significantly reduce daylight and sunlight into the living accommodation of 251, which relies solely on light from the rear, thereby undermining the amenity of the residents of this property. The submitted street scene elevations indicate that the proposed dwellings will be some 1 metre taller than both neighbouring dwellings at 251 and 255. Given the extensive built frontage of the 3 dwellings, this will result in an overbearing and overdominant built form on Grays Road.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, I had more to say.
Sorry, did you want to sum up?
Well, we think that the proposal for 3 dwellings is overdevelopment. We think a lesser scheme, potentially of 2 dwellings, may be acceptable, but we'd urge the Town Council to object to the current proposal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Louise Morton, for your contribution this evening. I'd like to call next, please, Sue James. Sue James.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, if you'd like to say your full name and where you live and whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm Sue James. I live at number 11 Gravel Hill, which is owned by Henley Housing Trust. And I'm speaking against the application for listed building consent for number 9. Firstly, I'd like to point out that none of us have received any notification that there was even a planning application in. There's no planning notice displayed on the property. So that's my first point. Secondly, I'd like to make the point that number 9 has been refused listed building consent twice within the last 2 years. So I'm not quite sure why we're here again. So numbers 9, 11 and 13 are grade 2 listed medieval houses of a similar age to the Chantry House. They've been dendrodated to 1547 and they've been subject to extensive research by Henley Archaeological Society. And number 7 is grade 2 listed. So in particular, numbers 7 and 11 would be heavily impacted by this internal work. Number 9 has already been overdeveloped and extended and had substantial loss to the original fabric of the 15th century building. And I'd like to point out that the oldest beams, which are dated to 1547, are located on the 3rd floor, adjacent to where one of the bathrooms would be. And I've forwarded an image of that's what the 3rd floor of my house looks like. You can see the age of the beams, and this ensuite, one of the ensuite bathrooms would be the other side of this wall. So I'm concerned about the extra plumbing, risk of water damage, and also there's a mechanical air extraction system requiring a lot of soundproofing. So one question is, this would create considerable noise just by the suggestion it has to be there. And secondly, does soundproofing material allow 15th century beams and delicate walls to breathe? I mean, I'm talking as a layperson, but it doesn't seem a good idea. So there would be a lot of invasive extra plumbing work. And I think it would put the adjacent properties at greater risk to their fabric and structure. There are also problems with access because a lot of the waste pipes for this building run over the rear of, this is the picture of the rear of, it's like a cat slide roof of number 9, and this can only be accessed from my tiny little courtyard garden, so there are considerable problems with access for maintenance and repair.
Ms. James, you're actually coming to the end of time now.
Okay.
So would you like to make any other points very quickly before we go to some questions?
Yes, very quickly. I am concerned about this mechanical air extraction system, particularly with the current virus that we have, and having waste air blowing into a tiny enclosed space of a courtyard. I already have this from a neighbour the other side, so that's one of my concerns, as well as noise, problems of access, and affecting the fabric of the buildings and their structural integrity. So for these reasons, I would urge the committee not to grant listed building consent.
Oh. Okay, thank you very much. Do any of the councillors have any questions at all? Do any of the councillors have any questions?
Linda is also here to speak from the Housing Trust.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So there's no questions. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go to the next person that's on my screen, which is Luke Thompson. Luke Thompson.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm the owner of property 251 Grays Road.
Yes,
So,
yes, we can. Thank you.
And so I'm sort of raising objections to the development proposed at 253 Grays Road, application reference P20/S15.
Sorry, Chair, could I ask that if members of the public wish to switch on their video, they can? So Luke I think we should offer that because it helps communication.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, just to reiterate my strong objections to the proposed development on 253 Grays Road. I live at 251 Grays Road. I do feel this is a significant overdevelopment of the plot with 3 dwellings being proposed there, and that the overbearing elements that the properties propose would create is not appropriate for the site. I won't go over all the points Louise has already raised for us, but I do have 2 additional concerns and objections. One is, I think the inclusion of a shared drive for plots 2 and 3 in the plans submitted highlights the fact that the developer is seeking to overdevelop the current site. And we're not aware of any other properties on that stretch of Grays Road that share a drive, meaning that would be out of keeping. Additionally, the potential for 9 vehicles to be turning in and out of the proposed new properties, as presented by the plans, presents significant traffic and pedestrian safety issues, particularly its proposed entrances are in close proximity to a side road and a roundabout. And then finally, really more of a process issue. Each of the ecology reports conducted on the 25th of March 2020, the arboricultural and planning integration report conducted on the 1st of April 2020, and the related tree protection plan drawing conducted on the 1st of April 2020, along with all other documentation submitted, was conducted around 1 month after a significant number of Lawson cypress trees were cut down and removed from the garden at 253 Grays Road. The date that the trees were cut down was the 6th of March 2020. The Woodland Trust notes that Lawson cypress trees provide value to wildlife. The dense foliage provides shelter to resting birds. The veracity and relevance of the submitted reports therefore appears to be significantly undermined when their results were conducted so soon after the felling of a large number of trees on the site. In fact, the Arboricultural Planning Integration Report notes in its executive summary that the proposed scheme requires the removal of a small number of relatively insignificant trees and shrubs, which will not significantly impact the local or wider landscape. which of course entirely misses the fact that the proposed scheme has in fact required the removal of a large number of significant trees, which will significantly impact on the local or wider landscape. This work having been carried out on the 6th of March 2020. For the purposes of full transparency and also correct and proper process, surely the aforementioned report should have been conducted prior to these trees being felled, so that the relevant planning departments and all other stakeholders would have had full disclosure of the planned ecological and green impact of the development.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. Before I move on, I think it'd be easier if we just try and take questions now. Does Mr. Thompson have any questions from councillors? If you raise your hand, if you know. Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Okay, let's move on to the next. Sorry.
Greg Waters.
Sorry.
I've managed to. Could I just add to that comments on 253?
Yes, okay, go ahead. Thank you. Can you please just state first of all where you live?
Yeah, this is Greg Waters. I live at 255A, directly the other side of Luke on the 253 property. I won't repeat all of the stuff that Luke has eloquently described there. I think the only point I would add is that there has been previous development of certainly the area I live in, 255, and more recently 267 Grays Road. So this is west from the roundabouts at Wootton Road. Both of those frontages onto Grays Road were bigger than the frontage on the proposed 253. Both of those developments, 255 and 267, were granted planning permission for 2 houses. 253, which is smaller in terms of the frontage onto Grays Road, is seeking planning permission for 3 houses. And I would just reiterate and re-emphasize all the points that Luke made there in terms of the overcrowding and overbearing nature that this would make. And certainly in terms of privacy, the same issues that 251 has, we have exactly the same. The plot 3 of the proposed plan would be built 1 metre from our fence line. Would be a 2-storey building overlooking a 1-storey building at the back of the rear of the property. Direct views into our living room and into our kitchen. And all the other points that were raised in terms of the privacy, the trees, the shared driveway, etc. I would just reiterate all of those points. Thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Walters? No. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walters. Okay, so I think the last person I have for public participation is Linda. Linda, can you hear me? Turn your microphone.
I can hear you and you can see me now. Hello. Okay, I'm here.
Hello. Good evening.
So yes, I'm here in connection with Gravel Hill, number 1660, and I won't obviously repeat the points that Sue has made. I am here representing the Henley District Housing Trust as owners of the property. I think we've all been here before, and the thing to remember, any planning development in this area needs to understand the close proximity of number 9 and 11. Any change to number 9 has a huge effect on the courtyard of number 11. And the my first point I would like to make is simply that we must request that the planning officer visits number 11 and to understand the impact that, even though this is an internal development, it states itself that there are external changes, and anything on the outside next to the courtyard does have a huge effect on the neighbour's garden and the living conditions. It does mention on the plans SVP, which I now know is a soil vent pipe, and hopefully that they will remain the same, but there is nothing to say that they will remain the same. So we wouldn't, for example, want to see these being taken off and replaced by something new, because suddenly they're now supporting more waste. And I'd finally like to just reiterate the point that because of this small courtyard, because of the changes next door, any little change must be seen as greater than it possibly would be if it was being made on a large detached house in the middle of a garden, and that we need to urge the planning officer to take that into consideration, to visit the neighbours, to fully appreciate the impact on the neighbours of this internal change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Councillor Plant.
Oh. Hello.
Sorry, I may have missed that. Did you say you're the owner of the property? Or not?
Not personally. The Henley District Housing Trust owns number 11 Gravel Hill, which is the neighbouring property.
Fine. Sorry, forgive me. Yeah.
That's right.
Thank
I
you.
probably mumbled.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that concludes. Have I missed anybody? I don't think I have I? No. Okay, so thank you very much for coming. Of course, you're welcome to stay on and listen to the remainder of the planning meeting if you wish. Okay, so moving on then, we are now going to the plans, item 5, amended, and we have P19 SO227 full, Anderson House, Newtown Road. Do I have any proposers? Sorry, my screen is actually...
Councillor Gavashak.
I propose. Can you hear Councillor Thomas?
It's frozen.
I think the Deputy Chair will have to take over temporarily.
Should have switched to Zoom. They do the best Wi-Fi. Like, you just need Zoom.
Sheridan, would you like Town Clerk?
Yes, if the chairman cannot be seen, cannot be heard, then she is classed as being absent. So in her absence, the vice chair would be acting chair.
Councillor Gavashak.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I hope that Councillor Thomas comes back fairly soon. I would like to propose the rejection of this planning application, and if seconded, I will speak.
I'll have a seconder for that. Councillor Romans. Okay, Councillor Romans. Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark.
Right, the reasons. Right, thank you, Vice Chair. The reasons why I am against this application is the first thing is this site is not in the neighbourhood plan. Secondly, it is an employment site. Therefore, it's designated for employment and not housing. The economic development team of South Oxfordshire District Council have stated on the planning portal that this should not go ahead because of the loss of employment. It's also the fact that all housing should have 40% development, which would mean 17 units on this site, and the developer is only offering 8. Also, the 8 that are going onto the site are going to be shared ownership. So there's no social rental, there's no social housing at all on this site. It is just shared ownership. So it doesn't actually cater for the housing needs of Henley. The final bit is that, and there was one more point, which I will just
Let me help you. Let me help you. The parking spaces. There's no car park spaces for the commercial.
And there are no. The applicant has allowed 43 spaces for the residential, but there are no spaces for the commercial, and it is questionable whether there is any on-street parking there as well. Therefore, I propose the refusal of this, primarily because it's not in our neighbourhood plan.
Councillor Romans.
I mean, as I said, I'd like to second Councillor Gavashak's proposal. For me, one, I am very concerned about the lack of office space or commercial space this development would take up. I think based on what's happening at the moment, we should probably be trying to encourage commerce in Henley. So for that reason, I reject the proposal.
Councillor Plant.
I agree with refusal. Like, there's nothing against that, and I agree on the points. But I'd like to, in this instance, at least be constructive, because the current use of the site, the company that was in there before was One Land, was it not? Sold, gone, moved on. I agree that the site right now, as Councillor Thomas stated on the previous meeting, it is undesirable to be rented in its current state. But all of these things in Henley, as councillors, like we can't just look for the perfect. Like the perfect would for the entire thing to be completely used for commercial, for local business. It's just not going to be the case going forward. Like we can see it with Gardner Place and numerous other developments in Henley where ground floor commercial, I think, works. Second and third floor residential, it works. I'm sad and sorry that Councillor Gavashak doesn't count me as a housing desire in Henley. You know, I don't classify for social housing, nor do I wish to, but do I want to buy an affordable property? Yes, I do. So potentially I am that 32-year-old young professional, potentially Councillor Romans is as well, that Councillor Gavashak counts as not being a housing demand in Henley, potentially. But all I would like to see is us go back with constructive points that hopefully they come back and change. 40% affordable of the number they've given is 17.2, if my maths is correct. So how they came back with 9 is farcical. But if they were to come back with something along the 17, then I think 17 affordable units with a mix of commercial and residential does work with Henley's need going forward. So I'd like to see at least constructive points go back to them rather than just a blanket no. But that's just my viewpoint.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, I'll just say a few words before Councillor Gavashak sums up. I think you're totally wrong, actually, Councillor Plant, and I normally follow what you say, because obviously you've had a good teacher in me. But I honestly don't know where you're coming from here. There are houses being built in Henley, there's flats being built in Henley. You mentioned 3 before, 3 houses, which I'm not going to mention the builder's name. But there's flats being built now, which I mentioned when we spoke to the developer earlier. There's flats empty everywhere. At the moment, we do not need any more flats. Now, the prices, they'll go up to Highlands Farm. There are 2-bedroom houses up there, which Sohar have taken some up. There's some 70 affordable houses up in, well, flats and houses up at Highlands Farm, and they are obviously affordable for some people, but they're about £480,000 as well, the same price as the flats. These flats that they're going to build here will be the same kind of price, if not higher. And flats are too expensive in Henley, what people are building at the moment, so you wouldn't be able to afford one anyway, from what you're telling us. But the main thing was the one I mentioned to Councillor Gavashak, was this one about parking spaces, and I think we all know Newtown Road really well, and we all go down there and there are no car park spaces. And to do a survey from 6 o'clock in the morning till midnight, I find amazing. So from probably 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock, they're going to tell us there's plenty of car park spaces there, which they normally are if people don't go to work. And they're probably going to say from 6 o'clock till midnight, there's plenty of car park spaces there. So they're obviously trying to curry favour by saying that. So I think the information on that, and I'd love to see it when it comes forward, will obviously be very interesting. But I can see no reason whatsoever why we should be giving up commercial land. And finally, I would just say in the proposed local plan 2034 SODC, we are looking for a hectare of commercial land rather than losing commercial land. So, for that reason, I could not support this application. Sorry, Councillor Gavashak, I'll let you sum up.
Okay, just to sum up, a couple of quick points. I am going to major on the loss of 9 affordable units. If this goes through, then I'm actually supporting Councillor Plant in his aspiration to have affordable housing. There should be 9 more on this site anyway. The second thing is that the building opposite this site, which is the Regis building, it has been proved that if that building is redeveloped with a high quality office product, then in fact all of the units in the Regis building are rented out, and they're shared spaces for company as well. So therefore, there is a need to keep this as an employment region in Henley. So I urge the committee to reject this planning application.
Okay, right. All in favour of refusal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 against, 1 against. So that's carried for refusal. Have you got all the reasons for that, Jodie?
Yeah, I can link it back to the policies as well.
Okay, if you would do, that's excellent.
Yeah.
The next item is plans new, item 6 on the agenda, which is one I've declared an interest on. It's not a pecuniary interest. Can I chair the meeting, Town Clerk, and not speak on this?
Yes, you can indeed.
Okay, so the next item is item 6, plans new. This is P20/SO700/HH22 Nicholas Road. Who would like to speak on this? Councillor Gabishak. Councillor Gabishak.
I propose acceptance of this.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Plant. Anybody else like to speak? No, you don't wish to sum up, Councillor Gabishak?
No.
Okay, thank you. All in favour of approval? That's carried. On to the next page, page 3. Top of page 3, P20/S1333/HH22 Vicarage Road. Who would like to speak on this? Councillor Gabishak.
Sorry, can I propose acceptance of this as well. It's acceptable.
Yeah. Councillor Plant? Seconded? Yeah. Okay. Anybody wish to speak? No. Okay. All in favour of approval? It's unanimous. Thank you. The next item is P20/S1454/HH37 Western Road. Single story rear extension. Who? Councillor Plant? For approval. Seconded by?
Yes. Yes.
Councillor Gabishak. Like to speak, Councillor Plant? No? Okay. All in favour of approval? That was carried. P20/S1465/HH8 Hugate Court. Replacement signal. Councillor Gabishak.
Can I propose acceptance of this with one caveat? There's an indication in the plans that the hedge in front of the timber windows is indication it might be removed. Now, I actually think that this is integral to the landscaping of the whole site. So therefore, I have no problem with the windows going in. They just need to take care that the hedge remains. So I propose approval subject to a condition that they keep the hedge.
Okay. Councillor Romans, you seconding?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody wish to speak on that one? Jodie, I must apologise. I haven't asked you if you wish to speak on any. I'm sure the chairman will do that when I've finished. Okay, all in favour.
We'll just conclude this one and then I'll take over.
Okay, all in favour of approval subject to the hedge. That one's carried. Okay. The next one we're on 7 Northfield End, Chairman. That's the next one.
Thank you. And so, sorry for the interruption. My internet completely crashed. So thank you, Councillor Arlett, for taking over. Okay, so the next item on new plans is P20 S1541. This is listed building consent, 7 Northfield End. Jodie, do you have any observations?
I haven't got any concerns with this. It's a listed building consent, but the work has been carried out a long time ago prior to the current applicant's ownership. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Arlett, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'm going to put forward approval for this. I think this is normally I vote against retrospective, but I think this is a wee bit different from the norm where someone's purchased the property not knowing work was carried out on the listed building. I don't believe the couple of walls that have been taken down make that much difference. It may be different if it would have been an application going in pre the walls coming down. But I think the gentleman concerned has done as much as he can to try and correct things. So with that, I would propose approval.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Arlett. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Plant, thank you. Okay, so let's take a vote. This is a motion for approval. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Many thanks. Let's go to the next item on the new plans, which is P20 S1574, which is 21 Nicholas Road. Do I have any proposers? Oh, sorry, first, would you mind if I just go to Jodie first? Sorry, thank you. Jodie.
Thank you. So I've got some concerns over the 2-storey side extension, considered not to be subservient to the main property. The extensions would greatly increase the footprint of this property and could have the potential to have adverse impact on the bungalow to the west. However, the building's not listed and it's not within the conservation area. There is also properties along Nicholas Road, including number 15 and 17, which have been extended to the front, side and rear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any proposers? Yes, Councillor Plant. Councillor Plant.
Yeah, I can say similar to Jodie, like it is, oh, sorry. I should be accessible to you. I agree with Jodie, like looking at it, it is a huge development of the existing property, but numerous others have done it around. I know that doesn't make it right, but I feel bad rejecting it otherwise. So I was going to go for approval on the designs that they have submitted.
Okay, do I have a seconder for approval? Councillor Gavishak, thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Councillor Gavishak, were you raising your hand? Do you want to speak?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, let's go for the vote on the motion to approve then, please. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is P20 S1588. This is a full application and it's for 253 Grays Road. Jodie, please can I have your observations before we go to any motions?
Yeah, thank you. So the site currently consists of 1 property and this application seeks to construct 3 properties in its place. Policy H4 of the Joint Neighbourhood Plan allows for infill housing, and also the local plan policy CS-1 allows for suitable redevelopment of sites. It doesn't fall within any area of special designation. I do have concerns over development of the site. If approved, it's important that conditions are in place to ensure that development is not harmful to the character and appearance of the site and the surrounding area, the amenity of the occupants living in the neighbouring properties, and the protection of the boundary trees. You should note that there's a similar application that's been approved at 245 Grays Road, and this was for the demolition of an existing house and the erection of 3 properties on a similar size plot. Also note there's no objections from the Highways Authority, but they've requested a number of conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to open it to councillors. Councillor Gavishak.
I'd like to propose a refusal of this planning application, and if seconded, I will speak.
Do I have a seconder? Yes, Councillor Romans, thank you. Okay, so over to you, Councillor Gavashak.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I propose a refusal of this planning application. As Jodie has mentioned, this is a plot with a single building on at the moment, and the proposal is demolition and replace it with 3. Therefore, it's not respecting the character of the area. Also, it is shoehorning 3 large properties onto what will be, at the end of the day, a small site. It's, I think, overbearing and unneighbourly. I do question why the highways have actually sort of not gone to town on this particular one. It means that there is going to be an extra drive coming onto Grays Road, very, very near the roundabout. And as I think Louise Morton said, there's the potential for 9 cars coming out on that road. I mean, as far as developers removing trees from a site before they get an arboricultural survey, well, I'm afraid that's standard practice. What you do is you scorch earth the site and then say, oh, we've got to have a tree survey. And oh, by the way, there aren't any trees of any value on the site anymore. Why? Because they've all been removed. So this is absolutely shocking. And what they should do is they should have a way of actually going back in time and actually say, were the trees on this site of value? So it doesn't respect the settlement of the site, and it's complete and utter overdevelopment. I actually think that the frontage of this site is different from the other site where there was planning permission for 3 homes. So I think it's a different planning application. So I propose refusal.
Okay, and that's been seconded as well. Would any other councillor like to speak?
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Crook.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what Mr. Gavashak was saying about the trees, and the fact is that people go along and remove trees before people, because I've seen this before and it's absolutely dreadful. It's disgusting, you know, and they should be made to put them back or replant them if it goes ahead.
Okay, so, thank you, Councillor Crook. Councillor Arlott.
Yeah, I'd obviously just like to support what Councillor Gavashak has said. And I think why this is a wee bit different from the other side of the roundabout. The other side of the roundabout, there are so many different types of houses, blocks of flats and whatever. When you go the other side of the roundabout where this development is proposed, the majority have been replacements have been knocking one house down and fitting 2 into the site, and even they're fairly tight. But I think to put 3 in there is definitely an overdevelopment, so I won't be supporting this application.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to a vote, Councillor Gavashak, would you like to sum up again, or are you happy?
No, I think it's all been said. Thank you.
Righto. Okay, let's put this to the vote then, please. So the motion is for refusal. Can I please have your vote, please? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Okay, let's go on to the next page. And the next one to consider is P20 S1632. It's a full application and it's for 5 The Maltings, Hart Street. Jodie.
My only observation for this one is I have some concerns over the impact on the mature sycamore trees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any proposals from councillors, please? Councillor Gavashak.
I propose acceptance, subject to the some protection for the sycamore trees. So that can be written into the proposal. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for approval with conditions? Yeah, Councillor Plant. Councillor Plant, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to this application? No. Okay, thank you. So let's put this to the vote then. This is the motion is for approval with a specific condition for the sycamore tree to be preserved in planning. All those in favour, please. Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, moving on to the last one, which is P20 S1660. It's a listed building and it's 9 Gravel Hill. Jodie, can I have your observations, please, for the committee?
Thank you. So this is a Grade 2 listed building. It was listed in 1974 and it falls also within the conservation area. The building is important for both the character and forms part of the important history of the town. The concerns over the impact on the listed building and the historic character and potential conflict with the historic environment policy in the local plan needs to ensure the integrity of the listed building is retained, and national policy states that when considering the impact of proposed development on the significance of a designated heritage asset, great weight should be given to the asset's conservation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so do I have any proposers, please? Who had their hand up first? I think it was Councillor Gavashak.
I'd like to propose refusal of this planning application, and if seconded, I will speak.
Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Crook. Thank you, Councillor Crook. Okay, Councillor Gavashak, back to you.
I'm going to propose refusal on 2 grounds. Firstly, public consultation. This planning application has not been consulted on, and we should make a very strong representation to SODC. If you go onto the planning portal, there should be a list of houses either side of this development that should have been consulted, and they haven't been. So therefore, in fact, it shouldn't even be debated. It needs to be relisted and reapplied for. But going to the substance of the actual plans, I think Sue James actually made all of the points very, very carefully and considered. We haven't got the Conservation Officer's report. We haven't got an archaeologist's report either to do with this. It sounds like a substantial number of changes. And in fact, I think Sue James and also Linda from the Housing Association made perfect sense that this really needs to be looked at very, very seriously. And to vent the shower room into Sue James's enclosed space is, I think, yes, grounds for concern on environmental health grounds. So therefore, this should be refused on the grounds of consultation and it's inappropriate development for a listed building. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Yes, Councillor Plant.
Happy to obviously second it as well, but just why hasn't it gone out to public consultation? And do we know why we haven't had a response from the Conservation Officer or anyone else? Is there any reason for this?
Councillor Crook, would you like to say something before I put that question to Jodie or Sheridan? Councillor Crook.
The reason why Sue James knows is because sorry, my dog's barking. The reason why Sue James knows is because I actually emailed her and she hadn't got any information, even though it is stated in his planning application that neighbours had been informed. And we know that this applicant is not the best at telling the truth. So, well, it's honest.
Yeah, but it's all of this is generated from the planning office over at SODC. So Sheridan or Jodie or both, have you got any comments to make about the consultation process?
Yeah, it's for South Oxford District Council, SODC, to ensure that the residents are being consulted. And as people have said, it's not shown on the website as anybody's been consulted on that. I know that the Conservation Officer has been consulted, but their response isn't available yet.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Okay, so the motion that we have before us is for refusal, and unless anybody would else like to speak, I'm going to put that to a vote now. Okay, hands up for refusal, please. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Can you put me down as abstain, please?
Yeah.
pending.
Did you note that at the beginning,
Yeah.
Jodie? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you. That concludes that part of the agenda. Now we're going to go to the objections and call-in applications. Do any councillors have any items that they'd like to have called in? Councillor Gavashak?
I think there might be a few, certainly. Page 2, Anderson House, of course,
Yeah.
but that's a full application, so it will go to committee anyway.
Yeah.
253 Grays Road is a full application, so that will, and of course 9 Gravel Hill as well. Those are my 3.
Okay. Do we have any anything else? Any others from councillors? No, those 3. Okay, thank you. Jodie, are you okay with those? You've got those down for the minutes, yeah. Okay. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, number 8, is decision notices on pages 13 to 15. Nothing I think that was of any concern to any town council. And the next item on the agenda is number 9, certificate of lawful development, and that's for 2 to 4 Reading Road. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is number 10, traffic calming measures for Gillett's Lane. Joe, actually, before I come to you, Councillor Crook, can I, Jodie or Kath or Sheridan, have comments from you about this item on Gillett's Lane? No? No observations? Okay. Councillor Crook.
I have real concerns about this because it's where it starts at the bottom of Gillett's Lane, right? If you're coming up, it's actually on a bend and there's no clear passing place to stop. So they're going to have to reverse all the way back to the bottom, right? And I have a worry that people will end up going and stopping in Garden Cottage Drive to pass, because it's just, I don't think it's suitable, and I think it's quite dangerous because there's going to be a bottleneck of traffic because delivery drivers go up there and school buses, and I think it's a hazard. I really do. I don't think it. I'm not happy about it at all, if I'm honest, because it will just.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Crook. Councillor Gavashak.
Chair, are you taking proposals on this, or is it just
well,
to note?
This is,
it is a proposal because,
as far as I'm aware, Councillor Gavashak, we need to get comments back for this. It's actually a consultation at this stage. So we need to decide as a planning committee if we're going to actually just submit any comments back to Oxfordshire County Council.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for that clarification. Right, my comments are this is a great scheme. And this is a very narrow lane anyway. At the best of time, you can only get one car down there, and there are natural passing places where the road widens out. And one of them is, as Councillor Crook has said, one of the passing places is by Garden Cottage. And on the left-hand side of the road and the right-hand side of the road. This is integral to the development at Highlands Farm, because Harpston Village were worried that in fact there would be increased traffic going down there, which no doubt there is. So we've just got to make sure that the traffic going down there is slowed down and it is calmed because of build outs and road narrowing. Also, the state of the road needs to be improved anyway. So therefore, I think we should wholeheartedly support it. I know I've met on site with the county councillor, Councillor Bartholomew, and also the OCC officers, and they have carefully thought about this scheme as to where the build out should go, whether they should be moved forward or back, to actually make sure that they are safe. So county has spent a lot of time on this, and I think we should wholeheartedly support it.
Okay, Councillor Clark, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I'm on the lane itself. I would sooner have a one-way system, either one way down or one way up. Because like Councillor Crook said, it's very narrow down there, and there's not sufficient parking places to come up and down. I would sooner see a one-way system.
Okay. Councillor Plants, you wanted to say something? Go ahead, Councillor
I was
Plants.
going to say I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Gavashak. It is. I do agree with what Donna is saying about passing places, but it is a very narrow lane and it's currently used as a rat run. With the increased development up at Highlands Farm, we need to do something. Gillett's Lane has, as Councillor Gavashak, been integral discussions that we've had with Harpston in regards to the development as well. I think any traffic calming measures in today's increasing demands on our highways are necessary. So I agree.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? No. Okay, well, just to sum up then, I think what I'm hearing from councillors is that largely we should be supporting this with perhaps just a couple of reservations. And I don't know how you want to actually record this, Jodie. Do you actually want to give one approach that Councillor Gavashak gave, and then just put a subset that there was one objection from a councillor or two objections from a councillor? What would you propose, Jodie?
Probably the comments are agreed, and we provide one set of comments. So if we support the measures, then we just state that.
Okay, Councillor Plant, you'd like to speak?
Well, I was just going to say we've had 2 speak for and 2 speak against. So unless Councillor Isaac, Romans and Arlott, unless we wish to go to a vote to give you support or not, then we can have an argument. But currently we've got 2 for and 2 against.
Well, this is just a consultation. We're not going for a proposal like we did on the plans. So Sheridan or Kath, do you have any comments about this? Yeah, Sheridan.
All the plans are also consultation as well. So the council can, by all means, make a decision to. Although there are 3 options: you can support, you can not support it, or you can choose to make no comment.
Okay, I think what we'll do then is we'll just hear from Councillor Romans first, and then it'll give me a bit of time to think about how we're going to approach this. Okay, Councillor Romans.
I would be in favour of this. I mean, one thing I will say about Gillett's Lane is that it's used by a lot of people who use it just to go for country walks and things. And I do think having a scheme like this in place would probably provide some added protection to people who walk up Gillett's Lane. So, yeah, I'm in favour of it.
Okay. Councillor Isaac.
Yeah, I can't really add anything else apart from the fact that I agree wholeheartedly with Councillors Plants and Gavashak on this. I support it. It's fine.
Okay. Councillor Arlott, would you like to add to the...
No, other than say, it's been going on too long now. There's plenty of schemes been talked about over the last 3 years, and I think this is the best one that's come forward, so I will be supporting it.
Okay. I think what we'll do is we will say, let's go for each councillor what their vote is, and broadly the reasons why they've supported it, which I believe you've been following, Jodie. Sorry, Sheridan.
Could I recommend the same way that you would with a planning application, that you have a proposal seconder and go through that usual system, and if that proposal isn't passed, then you can take a different proposal.
Councillor Gavashak.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I propose acceptance of this scheme.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Romans. Okay. So this is for approval of the scheme, which would go back in the form of the consultation back to Oxfordshire County Council. We've already heard from everyone, so I'm not going to ask anybody to speak. Can you please raise your hand if you're in support? And if you are not in support, if you'd like to refuse the, yeah, we've got two, Councillor Cook and Councillor Clark. Okay, thank you, councillors. Let's move on. So the next item on the agenda is number 11, and it's the Road Traffic Regulation Act. It's just one that we have to note. It's for Church Street, and similarly road traffic regulations for Singers Lane. Again, that's another one that we just note. And the next item on the agenda is number 13, and it's the Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group. Now we do have, I'm sure that all councillors would have read from start to finish all of the information that has been submitted on from the Climate Emergency Working Group. We do have a resolution at the end of the report, but first of all, we do actually have Tony Hoskins with us, who is chair of that committee and who would like to speak to the item. And Tony, can I just say thank you for your patience?
I've been asleep and just woken up. Hello, everybody.
Hello, good evening.
I'll do it very quickly. You've got some discussions about the proposed Chiltern Hills Community Energy Group, which we wish to associate with Reading Community Energy Society as a means of actually providing financial and technical and administration support. The important thing is that, well, first of all, we call it Chiltern Hills because we want to expand it beyond just the very small Henley geographic territory. And we've had discussions with South Oxfordshire and also with Tame about their participating in this as an example. The other thing is that what is critical is that there are, if I describe the business model of the Community Energy Society, they take shareholding from investors, ideally locally, but equally in the context of the process we have in Reading Community Energy Society nationally. They are getting between 4 and 5% return on their investment, and the building users get a very favourable electricity charge. In terms of where we're at currently, we're talking about a fixed price for 5 years, followed by a 1% inflation increase thereafter. But critically, at the end, you have a community benefit fund, which is of use for the community in which the buildings are located. And that is designed to support community energy efficiency programs over the length of the scheme. That is ring fenced for Henley, or for the Chiltern Hills, let's put it that way. And the important thing is that we met with, well, we reviewed 3 different service providers, and we decided that the best approach was to go with Energy for All, which is the one that supports Reading Community Energy Society. And they have 28 cooperatives from the Isle of Skye down to Sussex and Hampshire and so forth. And they, in terms of technology, range from solar panels to hydro to wind turbines and onto biomass. So we feel that they're the best solution. We also felt, and it was clear in our discussions, that at this stage Henley is too small to set up its own community energy society as an incorporated body, and that taking this approach was the best for Henley and its environment and its surrounding areas, and actually would benefit the town council in terms of enabling us to identify and install solar panels on buildings to reduce the emissions for Henley as a whole. In terms of this, what we've done so far within the working group is identify about 200 buildings that are potentially suitable, and we are researching them right now. They range from community buildings, schools, right the way through to commercial buildings. And we've taken the approach that we need to go right the way across that range of properties, because the focus for us is how do we deliver a reduced emissions. And going forward, we will look at other forms of renewable energy, but the first stage is to get a good approach, which is delivering renewable energy and also reducing emissions. So that's the first stage of the memorandum of understanding. I would go on to the other points in the recommendations, but are there any questions on that first of all? Totally comprehensive, absolutely brilliant presentation by myself. Thank you for that. Happy to take any comments though. The next point is that if we'd gone to a community energy society, it would have been incorporated. And Reading Community Energy Society is incorporated under the Cooperatives Act, and it's Financial Conduct Authority registered. That would have cost us money, but we do feel we should have some form of incorporation. So therefore, what we are intended to do is take on board the approach which is currently used by the Repair Cafe and become a community action group. That will give us the opportunity to bring on board more volunteers, and bear in mind all the people in the community energy group, Chiltern Hills Community Energy Group, are volunteers. And it's also the fact that there's things like insurance, which is beneficiary to us. So that's our second proposal linked to how we establish Chiltern Hills Community Energy. Any questions on that? No, right.
Tony,
Mr. Councillor Arlett, sorry,
yeah,
Mayor.
For what it's worth, I have got a tick against both of those.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is that an upside down tick or an upright tick?
You'll soon find out.
All right. The next proposal relates to the working group. And this is, we've been in contact with the Low Carbon Hub, which is the Oxford-based body that does a lot of providing grants to climate emergency organisations around Oxfordshire. So we've used them so far for Ox Futures, which you might have seen, which is grants for free energy audits for SMEs. We've also used them for Cozy Homes, which is energy audits for residents, and Better Homes, Better Health, which is for those people who are vulnerable and residents. They've somewhat surprisingly been excited and impressed by what we're doing. That's not a, well, it is a joke, but it's not a joke. What we found with both South Oxfordshire and Low Carbon Hub is that in many respects, we're slightly ahead of the game. They've asked us to join Low Carbon Hub Community Interest Group Company. That gives us an ability to participate with them in a broader sense. It would cost £1 for the share. The Deputy Town Clerk has got a purse out ready and waiting. What the benefits are probably a no-brainer. First of all, we get a £500 grant for a community energy scheme, and we can also apply for grants of up to £4,000 in any 1 year. Plus, we can identify a building within Henley that would be eligible for a free energy audit worth about £600. So the recommendation is that we spend £1 and take at least £400 back off them. Any comments?
If you can come up with any other schemes like that, I would be really very, very impressed. Spend £1, get 400 quid back. Yep.
Okay.
Gets my vote.
We have got sorry, Councillor Plant.
I was agreeing with Councillor Gavashak, that could solve a few of the current council's problems.
Councillor Arlett.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you can spend 10,000 and bring 4,000 in, that's even better.
Well, we are looking, and you should be aware of this, at a government-based interest-free finance scheme for public buildings, which would enable us to reduce the cost of electricity for the likes of schools, repaid over an 8-year basis. So we'll come back to you on that and let you know about that, okay? Any other comments or disagreements, apart from wanting 10,000 quid for £400 or whatever it was? Right, okay. The last point was a discussion we had in the last informal working group, which was about the need to get trees as part of the mitigation process in terms of the climate emergency. Trees are as important as having renewable energy installations. And it was Patrick Fleming who came up with a series of points asking for greater involvement with the council on this, possibly more, first of all, looking at what schemes there were within the council, what opportunities there were within the council, but then subsequently looking to see how we could actually discuss in a greater depth with landowners around the area. One of the comments from Kath Adams at the time was that probably, whilst this should go to planning, it was really a point about involving and engaging, first of all, with the Recreation and Amenities Committee, and then subsequently having a strategy in place to talk about how we could actually develop a greater planting of trees across our region, if you like. So the request really is, say, can we move forward and work with the council officers and actually across the different committees as well to try and get a joined-up approach to think about how we can actually have a broader tree planting scheme rather than what is being done currently through Queen Anne Henley, which is good, but fairly small in its impact. Any comments?
Just one from me, Tony, actually. I mean, I've always thought of Henley as a very green, leafy tree, lots of trees town already. Where are you proposing for these trees, apart from people's gardens?
Well, people's gardens, but also the farmers around. And actually, there are schemes to actually make it an affordable option for farmers to actually plant trees instead of whatever crops they're using currently. So it really is about, this is a starting point, is how do we move forward on this? Kath, I don't know if you had any comments to make on this.
I suppose I just thought that at the moment we've got a bit of a disparate approach within the council. I know Patrick's had some conversations with Becky and Carl. Kirsty's obviously working on climate related issues. I know Stefan's been doing some stuff on trees as well. It was just whether we could bring it all together so that we've got a bit of a more cohesive approach to it within the council, and that we've got the official backing, I suppose, of a committee to be working on that together.
Thank you, Kath.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Gavashak and then Councillor Plants.
I'd like the wording of it changed at the bottom, because tree planting for tree planting's sake, as I've found, I've been working with in the transport strategy, is no good if you don't include habitats and biodiversity into the mix. So where it says that HTC should develop a tree planting, hedging, biodiversity and protection of habitat strategy, if it's all in that as a lump, and we should develop a holistic approach to this, because if you plant trees to the detriment of you, I'm almost sounding like Joan Bland, bugs and bees and butterflies, then you've got to be extremely careful. I totally support the trees, but it needs to be expanded into hedges and biodiversity and habitats as well, so that we have a comprehensive policy across the whole council.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gavashak. Who was next? Councillor Plant?
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you very much to Tony and the whole committee for the hard work they've done. And actually, I just wanted to build on exactly the point that's just been said, 4.1.4, because we've looked at tree planting in numerous other ways, and we've looked at planters, and we've also looked at creating wild areas where we've currently got verges and turning grass verges into, you know, wildflowers and wild plants and bits like that. So again, like to see it part of a wider strategy. I know that Carl, Kelly and numerous other councillors will no doubt be in support of exactly that. But otherwise, I think this committee should look to resolve all of the points, point 1, point 2, point 3 and point 4 with Councillor Gavashak's amended wording. And thank you again to Tony and the whole committee for all the hard work.
Thank you, Councillor Plant. Councillor Arlott.
Yeah, I'll just follow what Lawrence just said there. I'd missed numerous of these meetings through one reason or another last year, probably going to other functions. When I went to the one the other day, it was very difficult to pick things up because obviously so much had taken place over 4 or 5 meetings. So I've been gradually reading through it. So I think we should congratulate Tony for the way he's run that committee. I think he's done an excellent job, and we can only thank you for the time that he's given up. So thank you, Tony.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Arlott. Would anybody else like to speak before we put it to the vote?
Can I just make one other point? And I've been listening to the discussion about people have been taking trees out before there's been an arboricultural, whatever it is, review. Could we recognise that we're not just talking about planting trees, but also preserving trees?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've got that preservation actually in there already, haven't you? But I get that in relation to the planning. Yeah. Okay, so I think it's fair to say that Councillor Gavashak's put forward a proposal for acceptance, and Councillor Plant has seconded. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So unless any other councillor would like to speak, shall we actually put that forward as a vote now, please? All those in favour.
Just to clarify, Chair. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's with the extra wording in 4.14. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've got a note of that. Jodie, you've got a note of that as well, haven't you? Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
Sorry, Councillor, are we going to the vote now? Or did you want to speak, Councillor Crook? No. Okay. Right. Let's put that to the vote then. This is the motion to accept the resolutions. That's unanimous. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony, and thank you again for your patience.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the comments and your support. Appreciate that. I'm going to go off now and have a glass of wine.
You're going to say have another sleep.
I'm going to leave that. Bye bye.
Thank you, Tony.
Bye.
Okay. Now the last item on the agenda is am I right? It's the progress report.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Now, when I looked at this, I couldn't actually see any updates and changes. So what I'm going to do, if this is okay with officers and councillors, is I'm just going to ask, and I did pre-warn Councillor Gavashak and Councillor Arlott that I just wanted some updates from them. The first one is not the residents parking. Yeah, the first item I wanted to speak about was this is for you, Councillor Arlott, the district councillors on the SODC Planning Committee. We're slightly concerned about the is it October 2019? Has it happened, or is it going to happen in October?
No, basically what it was, we had a meeting with the Constitutional Committee, and it just went on and on and on, and we ran out of time. We probably weren't even a third of the way through it. It was ridiculous. They were going to arrange another meeting, which actually Councillor Gavashak is the co-chairman. They were going to arrange another meeting. This must have been, what, 3 or 4 months ago now, and I've heard absolutely nothing at all. So we haven't agreed or disagreed. We did discuss the item actually, and it was very close on a vote, but it needs to go to full council where it will be debated again. So we're now awaiting another meeting, and obviously because of the COVID-19, you know, we just keep hearing everything's being delayed.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. We're just waiting for another meeting. So nothing's gone to full council over at SODC yet.
Okay, Councillor Gavashak.
Yeah, it's just to reiterate what Councillor Arler said. I'm co-chair of the Constitutional Review Committee, and COVID, this has hit the buffers because we've had to put so much resource into COVID management at the moment. And to be honest, I don't know at the moment. I am in discussions with officers as to whether the Constitution Committee is going to meet in the next month or 2 months. So watch this space. I'll try and get a report back to you for the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Crook was next.
No, I don't know if we're going to. I want to speak on the station car park when we come to that. Is that
Oh,
all right?
okay. Yeah, we'll be coming to that one. Councillor Plant, do you have anything to add about the planning committee, CDC planning? Yeah, go ahead.
I understand it's probably difficult from the discussions you already had, but were people roughly supportive of it happening? Because it seems like it should already be in place, but I just wonder if there's any gauge on mood.
Councillor Arlett.
That's, I guess, to either Councillor Gavashak or Councillor.
Yeah, it was, the debate was actually very mixed. I thought everybody would have supported it, you know, the local member speaking. When I spoke to members of the council before, they were all fairly supportive of it. But saying that, the people I've spoken to before weren't part of that committee. But there was a few people against it. They just felt that if you were the local member, you shouldn't speak to a local application. And I did give them the example of Councillor Hillier, who obviously lives in Henley, but is the, I was almost going to say the MP, who is the councillor for Woodcote. So she can speak on Henley applications, living in Henley. So I did ask the question, can you just explain to me what's the difference between me living in Henley and Councillor Hillier? But nobody could answer that question. So that would be, so it was very close, and I wouldn't say at this stage that we won it, but the people I'd spoken to previously weren't at that meeting.
Okay, is that sufficient for you, Councillor Plant? Yeah, thank you. Okay, moving on. It's on the traffic matters section further down the page. It's the item. Bollards have been done, so that's fine. The next one is the resurfacing. Did you want to say anything about the resurfacing, Councillor Gavashak? No?
Well, I will, apart from we have no date for it at the moment. The building work in the county is beginning to gear back up again, but I've got no date for this. Again, you can ask me for another report for the next meeting where hopefully I can pin a date on it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we understand the current constraints.
And actually, the position at the moment, and I don't think it's changed. It was TBC. It was to be costed. So we're still at the costing stage, but we have had a company actually costing it. So I'll come back with a report. Thank you.
Okay. And also the yellow lines on Henley Bridge. I spoke to Deputy Clerk and Jodie about this earlier in the last week. And is there actually a need for yellow lines on the bridge? I mean, I don't know about you or the remainder of the councillors here, but I've never seen anyone try to park on the bridge.
No.
Councillor Gavashak.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, anyone would be insane not to park on the bridge. But the problem is, if someone does park on the bridge and they say there's no yellow line there, you can't move me, then you can't prosecute them. The lines on the bridge need to be done. In fact, I chased them again a couple of days ago as well.
Okay, well, we'll keep that item on going then. Thank you.
I mean, this is a perfect time to do it, is what I've stressed, because there's low traffic, so therefore it wouldn't inconvenience anybody.
Thank you. Okay, the GWR fund, there's no update on that one yet. And last but not least, the station car park. Councillor Arlett, I seem to recall that, well, two things about this. The first is that didn't OCC put up an objection to disposal of this car park? Was it Oxfordshire County Council?
Are we talking about the last item now? The
Yes,
station car.
station car park.
Not that I'm aware of. I've heard no one objecting from SODC so far. Not that I've seen any information. I'm not sure.
Not OCC either.
I'm not sure if Kath has seen any information.
Kath?
No, I found some emails from, I don't know, months and months ago, probably last summer, saying that SODC had a legal agreement and it revolved around public use of the spaces, but I think that got disregarded in the end. The last we heard was that I think, you know, as this refers to, is that Network Rail were just going out for their official consultation on it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crook.
Yeah, I've got real concerns over this because I don't know if it's perpetual parking down the far end of the car park, but when it was full before COVID and everything, people were parking outside parking spaces on the road, right? And it was almost a fire risk, because if there was, say, a fire engine or something needed to get down to like the nursing home or one of those units, they wouldn't be able to get past because of the cars parking there. And it's a real concern. If we lose extra car parking spaces, this is going to be what happens. More cars are going to park illegally.
Councillor Crook, I do understand what you're saying, but that isn't part of what we're actually discussing on this agenda. But I do take your point, and you know, perhaps it's something that we could look into.
Yes, but we shouldn't be losing spaces. Sorry about that. We shouldn't be losing spaces. We need to keep what
I agree.
Yeah, I do agree with what you're saying. I mean, do you remember when, as a committee, we actually put a round of about 10, 20 questions to GWR and to the developer, and they never came back to us. I think we should be following up with that.
Yeah, I'm fine. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Sorry, follow it up.
Yeah. We want the answers. We don't want to be fobbed off. So Kath and Jodie, would you mind, in fact, Sheridan, perhaps you'd like to step in as well with Kath and with Jodie on this matter, that they need to answer the questions from the Henley Town Council.
I'll follow the trail back.
Okay, thank you. Right, thank you very much for coming this evening. That concludes our business evening at 9:06. Would Councillor Arlett and Jodie just stay on the line